This is Kathy Biehl of Empowermentunlimited.net with Astro-Insight for the week of August 20th, 2018. We aren't out of the tumult yet. We aren't out of the retrogrades or the impact of 3 back-to-back eclipses. And yet, this week, we do start feeling like some of the intensity is finally abating. We're still floating on a beautiful bridge between Jupiter and Neptune, which is encouraging escapism, staring at the clouds, dreaming, sleeping, wishing. Lots of wishing. Communication and technology matters are ever so slowly starting to untangle and return to something approaching manageable, if not normal. Although, is there really a normal anymore? By the end of the weekend, Mars will also be stationing direct. That may take a bit longer to feel. And in fact, it may be mid-September until we feel like we can actually consciously push our agendas forward. Nonetheless, there is a strong sense of progress this week. Progress and opportunities for firmer footing and more than glimpses of how we can experience life with greater sanity, but actual immersion in that sensation. Sane living used to be boring. Sane living is something that when you were an adolescent, you said, no, that's not of interest to me. Sane living has been increasingly appealing, especially this summer. And it could be extremely helpful to look just at the last 2 months. What have you changed in your life? How has your attention been redirected to fundamental, practical, boring old step-by-step responsible behaviors? Since the Saturn-ruled Capricorn full moon at the end of June, what have you been doing differently? How have you been taking greater responsibility for yourself, your schedule, your environment, your body, your own physical needs, your own long-term security? Because evidence is cropping up this week of what you've been doing and how those efforts have been working. We are entering Virgo time this week on the 22nd, and the sun is moving into a beautiful, beautiful grand trine in Earth with the Lord of Order, Saturn, ruler of adulting, and the Lord of disruption and chaos and innovation and epiphanies, Uranus. And this combo is locking directly into the Pisces full moon on the 26th. Something is coming into being that has been in the works for a long, long time. Something is coming into being that circumstances rearranged to make possible after the middle of May. Something is coming into being that is unexpected and unusual and not from the direction you thought or involving the person you thought or coming about in the way you thought. And it may very well be an outgrowth of all of the wishing on a star that you have been doing consciously or unconsciously all year long, but especially over the weekend of the 19th. The world isn't going back to the way it was a few years ago, and you most certainly are not either. And now something is taking physical shape, taking physical form in a way that you can actually experience it in practical terms, not just in your mind, not just in visualizing, but actually here on the physical plane with you. And it is the beginning of a new way of experiencing something important in your life. And there's something about it that is healthier for you than what you have allowed in before, and possibly has more breathing room than you have allowed in before. New rules, much more fitting to who you are. And this locks in as we have the first lunation in a couple of months that's not an eclipse. 2 solar eclipses and 1 lunar eclipse since the middle of July have been radically resetting our inner systems and our lives, and all 3 of them came with unavoidable demands for doing things differently, for breaking from the past, and for heading to the future. The Pisces full moon has a softer vibe to it, but nonetheless is pushing us out of what you might call comfort zones. Pardon the cliche. This full moon will dunk us in how far and wide we are interconnected. But it has a couple of mechanisms for getting out of codependency or feeling like you're drowning in other people's stuff, which is very useful given how chaotic this summer has been and how much we have been exposed to. Do take next weekend as a moment to take stock of how you feel about everything that's happened. You know, we've been in crisis management mode, and now there's a little bit of a space to actually sit and become aware of how you actually feel, and become aware of what is real and solid around you, and become aware of who gets you. Those are clues. And also respond to primal, fierce, and unavoidable demands to make space in your heart for the things that you really value, and to release and purge the ones that have become trivial or of lesser importance to you. This is not a time for emotional junk food. This is not a time for emotional junk food relationships. Secrets are continuing to come out. Triangulation will, be warned, continue to come out. And you may have to choose between something that is more socially acceptable and something that every cell in your body tells you you have to have. You're making space in your heart. You don't necessarily have to pounce on any of this right now. And you may find that some of the purging, some of the releasing happens without your having to consciously steer it. This is the emotional cleanup to all that has happened this summer. This is the time to sit, to rest, to regroup, to evaluate, to acknowledge what is building, to acknowledge what is growing, and to do some pruning. There'll be plenty to implement come September. Homing thought of the week. Show me signs of progress. Song of the week. Well, the main one is the Garden Song by Pete Seeger, Inch by Inch, Row by Row. But I got a couple of bonus ones. They're both one-hit wonders. One of them is Concrete and Clay by the Unit 4+2. And the other is 98.6 by Keith. The image of the week is weeding a garden and discovering flowers and vegetables that you didn't realize you'd planted. You'll find more about this in my forecast for the Pisces full moon, which is already posted at my site, Empowermentunlimited.net, where you can sign up for my mailing list, book a session with me, and get a couple of resources in the shop that will help you with what's going on right now. The Star Pond meditation is really good for just soaking in the watery energies and finding some rejuvenation. Easing transitions is ideal for working with the Saturn-Uranus trine, the unlikely coming together of order and chaos. And as always, my Uranus in Taurus guide, which has pointers for all the signs for the next 8 years. Talk to you next week.